Duck found life boring on Edward's branch line. He was stuck working at Brentham Docks. He had little to no company to keep him busy for the day since Salty was away, and he longed for a nice run on his line again. But Thomas's recent accident had caused a great deal of trouble, and more work had to be done on the line. Duck's driver decided to take Duck to Wellsborough for a nice run after working with the trucks. Duck noticed Stanley at the station taking on water. "Hello," called Duck. "Where are you off to, Stanley?" "Sir Topham Hatt sent me to Vicarstown to collect more ballast. Thomas had an accident with the trucks today, and more work has to be done on the line under repairs." Duck was cross. This meant that he had to wait longer after Thomas's accident. "Well, hopefully you won't have any trouble with those silly trucks like Thomas did." Stanley wasn't worried about Troublesome Trucks. Ever since the accident where Stanley's trucks had uncoupled from him at Great Waterton and rolled down the hill towards the Great Tower, smashing it into pieces in the process, trucks wouldn't dare and try to pull tricks on Stanley. Next morning, Stanley waited at Vicarstown patiently as Stepney pulled into Vicarstown yards with the trucks full of ballast.
"Here are your trucks, Stanley. They're the most troublesome trucks of all. It's their first time on Sodor. They've been holding me back during the journey, so take great care with them."
Stanley was coupled up to the trucks and started his long journey. The trucks that Stanley was pulling were behaving very badly. It was their first time on Sodor, and they knew nothing of what happened to Stanley at Great Waterton. The trucks began bumping each other so hard that their loads began to spill onto the tracks. "Stop bumping!" But the trucks chuckled mischievously. Stanley's driver looked behind Stanley and noticed the ballast falling from the trucks. "We might have to pull the trucks more gently," he said to Stanley. "Ballast is falling from the train and it'll never do." "But we can't be late with our delivery," replied Stanley. "Sir Topham Hatt is relying on me." Stanley had to stop at Kildane to take on water, and the trucks were laughing very loudly. "Oh dear," sighed Stanley. "I do wish these trucks would behave." Just then, Toby pulled in with visitors from Peel Goddard Castle. "Why do you look so worried, Stanley?" he asked. Stanley told Toby about the trucks from the mainland, and the trouble they've been giving Stanley so far. "Don't worry, Stanley. If those trucks from the mainland are misbehaving, they'll soon be in trouble with Sir Topham Hatt." Stanley smiled at his friend. He knew that Toby had experience with trucks and was determined to get his job done, even if the trucks were being very troublesome. Stanley set off on the main line, and even though the trucks were being troublesome, Stanley pulled them as determinedly as he could towards the castle tunnel. Stanley had to change positions when he reached Knapford. He had to shunt the train to the tunnel with a brake van in front, since Stanley had to prepare for his next train. Stanley soon pushed the train out of Knapford towards the tunnel. Little did Stanley know that the trucks were old and rusty, and they were soon going to fall apart before he knew it. The trucks were bumping back and forth again. "Get a move on now, you stupid things," he scolded. "I don't have time for your games." Stanley soon arrived at the castle tunnel, and the workmen cheered for Stanley when he made his delivery. Stanley was relieved, and was looking forward to a rest before setting off for his next train. His driver uncoupled Stanley from the train, but then it happened. Once Stanley was uncoupled, the trucks had fallen into pieces. Ballast spilled everywhere. Stanley was now very worried. He didn't think that he was rough of the trucks. Sir Topham Hatt soon arrived and inspected the damaged trucks.
Rotten wood, rusty frames," he said. "Almost like a certain truck Oliver once pulled into pieces. The accident with these trucks was not your fault. The accident happened because the trucks were old and rusty."
"Not to mention they have been bumping backwards and forwards for the entire journey," added the driver. "Now these trucks are only fit for scrap."
"Indeed,"
agreed Sir Topham Hatt.
"I'll send James over to take these old trucks to the scrapyards."
Toby was right, Stanley said to his driver on the way home. "Those trucks certainly got what was coming to them." Stanley was just glad that the trucks had gotten what they deserved after the long journey of them bumping each other and causing trouble. trucks would never dare cause Stanley trouble.